Good evening. Welcome to the Toon review for this FA Cup fourth round preview. Fulham versus Newcastle United tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Craven Cottage. I'm joined by Stato to go through the lineups and predicted things, what might happen, what may not happen. Good evening, Stato. How are you?
I find myself saying I don't know yet again because press conference is a bit sketchy. I was quite proud of it though. I think Eddie Howe was as honest as he could be. He's probably in a bit of a difficult situation, as he said himself today. It's the first time since he's been manager where he's had to kind of deal with potential outgoings and this many rumours. So I'm not sure. I'll probably feel better if we beat Fulham.
Yeah. Anyway, before we do start, we do need to go through the whole rigmarole of, if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up also, because if we do get lots of likes, it pushes up the search on YouTube to like-minded fans. Membership's also available by clicking the join button, and super chats too by clicking the $sign beneath us in the chat. So Fulham away, they've had one game since the 2-week break. They played Liverpool on Wednesday night in the Carabao Cup second leg semi-final. They weren't too bad, but they were the second best for most of the game. Did a lot of chasing the ball around, of course, as you do against Liverpool. That's not going to help them going into a game on Saturday, is it, you'd think?
No, well, I've just got it up here, and they played probably the strongest lineup they could. You'd imagine. I mean, Fulham fans might argue with that. I'd say it's pretty strong. An average age, funnily enough, I noticed just as I brought it up pre-show, 29.9 years average age for that. So it's quite an old side starting 11-wise.
Yeah.
But it's as predicted, and I think we'll see something quite similar. It'll be a 4-2-3-1. Polinia will be one of the sitters. They'll have Pereira in front as a 10. Jimenez up front, who of course got sent off with that challenge on Longstaff. It will be a similar lineup, a similar style. And to be completely honest, they weren't terrible when we played them. I don't know, red card aside, I'm not sure what would have happened if that hadn't have happened. I don't know if we'd have won that. It was a tricky game. It made it easy and very winnable. I don't think we were particularly amazing before the red card.
No, they looked dangerous, didn't they?
So it is away. It is at Craven Cottage, isn't it? So yeah, it is. So we'll have to make sure we're very, very on it.
Eddie Howe's press conference today. Lots of things were going on. He was asked about transfers, ins and outs, of course. But one thing I found strange was he didn't know when, or said he didn't know when Jamal Lascelles' contract ends. He wasn't sure if it ended at the end of this season. We all know it does. Do you think that's odd? Do you think he's playing cards close to his chest where Jamal's concerned? Do you think he wants to keep him? Do you think he wants to give him another contract? I don't know. It's a summarization, I guess.
I didn't realise he said that, but yeah, he's not stupid. He knows exactly when his club captain's contract runs out.
Yeah.
The fact that he went into so much detail with Joe Linton, of course he knows. He wouldn't go on that sort of the whole slant about the 18 months and contracts and players got to be happy, and you don't go down that if you don't know how long your club captain's got left on his contract.
Yeah, and of course,
just, vague as he can be.
Alf Harrison, welcome through the door today. Dan Ashworth signing, pretty certain by what he said that he wasn't involved in the transfer. So it's a Dan Ashworth signing. We've got to assume, haven't we?
Possibly. You'd imagine so. Unless it was somebody that's on a list anyway. And it does look like he was kind of what's the right word? They needed to make room for this new lad, the Argentinian lad that's come into their setup, which seems like the reason why they've let Alfie Harrison go. And it's kind of mixed reports as to whether he was the jewel in their crown academy-wise, or whether they just needed to get rid of him to make room for somebody better from South America. It's pretty mixed at the moment, and we're going to need to wait until the dust settles. I'm not knowledgeable enough to really spill the beans on that. We're going to have to do a bit more digging because it's very mixed from City fans and from outlets. We'll have to wait and see. I do want to just kind of throw something out on a side tangent. Not strictly relevant to Alfie Harrison. I don't know if you've seen this, Billy, but the new wonder kid that PSG signed from South America has taken the number 44 shirt for PSG, which, funnily enough, was Ekitike's shirt number, which is quite funny.
Well, he's rumoured to be going to Germany, isn't he? The Bundesliga, on track Frankfurt. on loan. Ekitike, whether he does or not. Who knows?
There were a few Premier League clubs banded around and a few in Europe. So we'll see where he ends up. But I just thought it was quite interesting. I think that basically means he's going to go somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. As he won't be getting his shirt number back, I wouldn't have thought. Let's see some comments. John Mitchell says, "Evening all. What do you think of the announcement in the Belgian league that a court has announced the game should be replayed, which was played on 20th of December, opened a can of worms? PSG game replayed. Yeah, the game was decided on a dodgy VAR decision apparently, and the Belgian courts have announced that the game has to be replayed. That is a massive can of worms, isn't it?
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's a good shout. It's a very interesting comment. I think because it's nation specific, it's down to that country's football association that handles with all of that specifically. Less of a can of worms, but it does somewhat set a precedent. Yeah, it could be if someone else also follows suit, and I think it would be more of a precedent if UEFA or FIFA got involved, and if it was anything on sort of a European competition. The fact that it's purely within their domestic league, it's an interesting point for sure, and it could be the avenue. There's going to be a lot of people potentially saying, "Well, Belgium did it," and it might force the issue. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll have to wait and see.
Of course, the kind of restraints of time will kind of not allow us back into competition, you would think, or any European competition, but maybe some financial compensation may come our way because of it, I guess that we wouldn't be expecting to kind of come back into the competition. But
what you mean because of the PSG game?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, best case scenario for us. Well, I don't know if that's best case scenario because it's going to get real messy real fast for everyone. But if it somehow ends up meaning that our decision against PSG gets reviewed and we get some sort of compensation based on points lost, however, there's an argument to be made that we had still had to play another fixture in the group, and it wasn't sort of a clear cut. This changes it versus this doesn't, because we could and should have beaten AC Milan. We kind of bottled it really. A real tough one. Can of worms is the perfect analogy because it's dangerous as hell once you start going down that road.
It really is.
Where does it end?
Well, it's questioning integrity and all sorts, isn't it? So,
I mean, it's true. It's true though. It's frustrating when things are wrong. It's so irritating when you're the fan base that's hurt by it. When your team have done sod all wrong and you get punished by a decision and you either get knocked out of a competition or you lose points. It's frustrating. We put a lot on the line. You get hardworking people pay a lot of money to go and see their team, or they wait all week at work, and it's the pinnacle of a lot of people's lives and week. It's their main hobby and interest, and it's really irritating. So I don't know, dangerous topic, but we'll see if it stands.
It is indeed. The Wolf Abolition says looks like Bayern have almost finalised a deal for Sacha Boey, right back at Galatasaray. According to reports, paying around 29 million euros, as Arsenal were after him. Touchwood Trips is not going anywhere. Yes, that would kind of close off the Trips deal, you'd think, wouldn't you? If they've already signed another right back, I'd certainly paying that amount of money.
He's right back, is he? I know Romano mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, he's a right back, so that kind of closed off the avenue for him. And of course, Eddie Howe paid tribute to Kieran Trippier's professionalism today, didn't he? He said he was very flattered to be linked with Bayern, but at the end of the day, he's a Newcastle United player and he loves it here, etc., etc. Just what you'd expect, really.
Yeah, I didn't expect anything different to that. It's, I'm sure he was potentially interested in it, but he's very focused on the project. The fact that he followed the team around when he was injured, he was out on crutches during that first stint, that first season, even. I'd be stunned. I think he would act in the same way he always acts, and he would only go if we got offered ludicrous money for somebody in his position in terms of age, contract length remaining. If we did get offered sort of more than 20, then I think we'd sort of say to him, "Look, this is a really good offer. Do you want to go?" And I think he might be interested in going, or it's not a guarantee of trophies, especially this season with how difficult the Bundesliga is and Bayer Leverkusen, but. Yeah, I think it's all been far more open than we think. I think the media have pushed it as it's a big drama, it's a big war, and I probably don't think it was. I think internally it was very much if you bid the right price, we'll talk about it. you can go and play for a top European club. If they don't pay the right price, you can stay and continue the project with us. And I think Trippier was probably quite happy with either option. I mean, I can't speak for him. I don't know. But I feel like that's more of what's gone on. And everybody's just made it into a lot more of a drama than it actually is.
I think that's a fair assumption. I really do. I'm with you 100%. Ivani Granit says, have a Guerra and Tosin from Fulham linked today. I pronounced him Tosin because I'm a big fan of him, and I didn't want to say it the other way. It sounds really rude. So I like Tosin from Fulham. A good centre half, very quick, very good on the ball. Also, yeah. But what we've been linked with centre halves for, we don't really need one at the minute, unless it's ours going, of course.
I'll tell you what. I saw a highlight. It was a couple of highlights. So do you know how Nunez did us?
Yeah,
on the
I
counter?
saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, somebody put through. So there was the one clip, and there was another one where he put through a compilation of basically forwards that were basically attacking that half space between your left-sided centre half and the left back, and that's where Nunez got us on the counter attack the first time we played Liverpool.
Yeah.
And there's clips of what's his name?
It's hard to say. Just say Tosin.
Tosin, and his recovery run and the timing of the tackle was exceptional. It was great to see because we normally do it on the opposite side. Botman's not too bad at it, but it's especially when Burns in the team, there is quite a gap.
He is indeed. Yeah, and of course he's the Fulham centre half. So we'll get into tomorrow's game now. FA Cup game, of course, our last chance of silverware for this season, and I think that Eddie Howe's mantra for the side will echo that. I think it's something we need to go for. As a route of getting into Europe. Fulham away is not the easiest game, though, as you've already said. How do you think we're going to go about it, Stato? Bearing in mind our away form ain't great. You know, it hasn't been great. How do we approach? I mean, do we go for the all-out press as we have done in previous games?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Has to be, doesn't it?
We've had quite a long rest, and in recent weeks when we've played, we've seen a bit more of a return to that kind of style. Obviously, we've not managed to maintain it to quite the levels we've seen previously, where we were just marauding and steamrolling teams. However, there have been 60, 70 minutes where we had a lot more oomph that have been building to this game. You know, are they going to be sharp enough without a match? Possibly not. But I think we'll be in good. We'll be in a good place fitness wise. It's one of those games. I know it's a cliche. I know everyone says it. We need early goals. I know it's stupid, but it's no good us being the better team for an hour and then we start huffing and puffing. We know that in that first hour, especially when our fitness levels are good, we will get more of the ball and we could be a nightmare. If we take the game by the scruff of the neck, we can be a nightmare. We just need to make that count. We really do. However, obviously the main talking point of that is the midfield. How is that going to function? Are we going to be able to do it without certain personnel, i.e. Joe Linton being available? Bruno is available, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Absolutely. Paul Tully 365 says, massive game tomorrow, worrying what the fan reaction will be if we dare lose, but think we will win. Lots of people saying hello to each other. Any more comments below here? Yeah, Tosin is quite classy, says Pete. I agree. Niall Powell thinks 2-1. Stato wants the 1st of Feb now, says Paul. Of course,
not necessarily. If you're talking about transfers, I'm a big advocate of overhauls. I love Football Manager. I absolutely love certain players at this club. I love most of the players at this club. However, if they've got to go, they've got to go, and we will reinvest. I'm sure if somebody goes, I have 100% faith in the ownership that they've got things planned. If someone goes, there'll be a replacement straight in. I don't think they would allow it otherwise.
Well,
and then the replacement will be exciting. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I agree. Hope we win tomorrow night. Then be double celebration after my engagement today. Well, congratulations, Russell. Congratulations on your engagement, and hope we can double up for you tomorrow. Where's Fulham's strength, Stato?
Well, they've got a good spine, to be fair. I think they're a fairly well put together team. They were quite dangerous early doors in the season. They were pretty good last year as well. Obviously, it was a big blow losing Mitrovic, but Jimenez has come in and done well. He's been a decent forward in the past. Obviously, he had his really bad head injury. But I really like their spine. So you've got Issa Diop, who is not a bad centre half, who was very, very good for West Ham for a time, and then you've got Tosin as the other pair. I think the fullbacks aren't too bad either. You got Robinson in there, who we've been linked with a couple of times. Castagna struggled a little bit at Leicester, but has come from quality. He's played in a lot of good leagues. So that spine all the way up to Jimenez up front, especially with Paulinho in midfield, it's not bad. If they can get their best players in their 11, Willian's got, loads of experience. He might not be quite as fast as he was, but they've got a good 11. They have got a good 11. If they play with a bit of confidence, Fulham have the potential to be a really tidy side. When we played them earlier on in the season in the league, when we did the preview for the show, they'd just come off the back of several 5-0 wins. So when they click, they click. They're a good side. So we can't go into this overconfident. We can't be naive. And I don't think the coaching staff will be at all. They're very aware of the threats of Fulham. They're a good side and they're going to be playing at home. We've got to treat this seriously.
Yeah, I mean, the red card definitely changed the game this season at St James's Park. A red card also last season at Craven Cottage early doors. Not sure it changed the game because it was really, really early, wasn't it? It was after about 3 or 4 minutes. But we were fantastic at Craven Cottage last season on the back of that. Some great goals. The one from Miggy was a fantastic goal. And he's going to be key tomorrow, isn't he? I think if he's playing it up against Castagna, which he meant, no, it won't be Castagna, would it be Castagna? Is he left or right?
Castagna against Liverpool, Castagna was the right back, Robinson was the left back.
Right. So Robinson against Miggy. That'll be a good little battle. I think Miggy's important tomorrow, do you?
I just don't know which version of him's going to turn up.
Well, this is true. He's playing on the back of confidence, isn't he? He's had the last couple of games been pretty good. So,
I think I'd be more inclined to say I just want Miggy to do the basics well and press well, because we get goals. It doesn't even have to be from him playing well in terms of on the ball stuff. Sometimes we just get goals because he's a little rat and just chases people down. So just do that bit. Just do the basics well. And I would prefer to shoulder the pressure on somebody like Isak and Gordon, who have obviously netted a lot more this season. I think Gordon's got seven goals, 5 assists, and Isak with 10 goals. So I'd prefer Miggy. I'm just done with putting too much expectation on his shoulders. If he wants to cross with his right foot, fine. If he's going to do stuff, fine. I just want him to do the basics well. So we're a coherent team. We press together as a unit. Maybe he'll force an error, but I'm quite happy for the dangers to come down the opposite side and maybe Trippier being creative.
Yeah, so if that's the case, if it is Robinson on that far side, he's the one with the pace. It's going to be Gordon against Castagna. Now that's got to be a place in the pitch where we can definitely come out on top on Gordon's pace and trickery as well. Against, I don't think he's very quick, Castagna. I don't think he's very good actually.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. It depends. I've not watched enough of Fulham. I don't know how they wide cover. Again, it completely depends on where everyone is at that phase of play. Because if you get to a point where Gordon's taking on Castagna down the line, our overlapping fullback doesn't exist because it's Burn. Occasionally does. So the wide cover is going to come from Paulinho and Tosin, who are more competent players in their side. So Gordon's going to have he's going to have to play really well because they've got good wide cover. The centre half strong. The cover in midfield is really, really strong if Paulinho lines up on that right-hand side as he did against Liverpool. So Gordon's going to have to be really switched on. Maybe he's going to need some midfield support. Again, it depends who plays as that left-sided 8. Because they're going to have to go in and help that side. So
generally William on the right, isn't it?
No, William against Liverpool, he played sort of left, but they can interchange. So it was Bobby Reed
as well,
right? I mean, he's an option, isn't he? But he wasn't on the bench against Fulham. Sorry, guys, I got a bit of cough today. I do apologise. But it's very much that left-sided 8 is going to be an interesting one because they're going to be more often than not they're going to have Pereira and Paulinho on them, and then if they do get any progression, they've got to go past Tosin. Obviously, they'll have Gordon on that side, but be really interesting to see who we put on the left side of midfield.
We've got 199 super chat from Gary Harrer. He said Eddie needs to tell the truth about injuries, man. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's in the dark as we are. I mean, the medical team ain't been great this season. Let's be perfectly honest about things. Perhaps he's not as in the know as what you think he is. You know, they're all long-term injuries mainly. But there weren't very optimistic outlooks for the injured people, apart from Jacob Murphy, as far as I could see.
Sorry, somebody just distracted me by saying, "Is the Fulham goalkeeper good?" Yes, but they know he's good. He's a good shot stopper.
The Wolf Obligation says it's. Don't know what that means. Okay, let's go to the next one. Can't believe I'm saying this, but PF are coming at the fat boys understood either way things are going. Can't believe with their financial expertise we are still being screwed on our spending. Oh, let's start with that.
I think that's harsh.
It's legal. It's legalese. It's hard to overturn laws or rules of the game, isn't it? You just can't do it. I mean, it's in plain sight of things. You can't underhandedly spend too much, can you? So
Mick is frustrated because we've not found loopholes.
Basically,
is that the gist of this comment? Like, if that's your opinion, absolutely fine. But
it's hard to spend a lot of money without people knowing, isn't it? You know, it's
especially nowadays with social media. You know, once something's gone through company's house, it's on Twitter in the next 10 minutes. Like you can't hide anything.
Going back to the other point about the Belgian league ruling, the Bosman rules came about due to ruling in the Belgian courts. This is true. It did. It certainly did. And John says VAR has to go. It's corrupt. Well, whether it's corrupt or not, it certainly isn't working correctly. So, I mean, I'm kind of getting to that way myself, to be honest. Callum says, I hope we have Murphy back for this game as he is an option going forward, which we need. Thinking we may see him on the bench tomorrow. Stato, do you?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, with Murphy, it was a very different kind of injury, wasn't it? It wasn't lower body related. So I would imagine he's kept that sharpness about him to a point. That shouldn't be an issue. It's just to do with his shoulder can't come out again. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the bench. Yeah. Normally, if it's someone recovering from something ankle, hamstring, thigh, quad related, whatever it is, it may be a different story. But this is, you know, it was an upper body injury. So as soon as he's fit-ish, why not stick him on the bench? Come on for 20 minutes, maybe.
I have a really, really rarity here. This is a rarity. Mr. Positivity, Mr. Reactions, he says, good evening all. I'm getting pissed off. Feel like we're all left in the dark regarding our club. I'm really disappointed with the January transfer window so far. I hope there's a silver lining. Well, time will tell.
There's so much going on, mate. I don't think it's that they're trying to leave us in the dark. I think that there's so many plates spinning at the moment. Yeah. They're trying to make the best decisions for the club. They want us to be successful and win and be profitable. So they're not doing it on purpose.
No, they're not. Barry the Bee says, can't believe what Eddie said about the Joe Linton contract situation today. Don't want to be losing Joe Linton. I don't think any of us want to be losing Joe Linton. Least of all, Eddie Howe would have thought so.
Yeah, I mean, so I had to think about this today. And there are people in this squad that are on more money than him. Matt Targett is one that I don't want to use the word irritating because that's not fair, because Matt Targett was really, really important for us in a critical season. He seems like a good guy, and he's a decent left back. He's very, very solid. But as good as Joe Linton is, you know, I feel like he deserves to at least match that. But then what is the standoff? We're not privy to what the sort of demands are. Does he deserve to have as high as Bruno? Where's the line? Depends what he's asking. It's a tricky one. Again, what is he? 27 years old. So this is it's a big contract for him now, because if he extends for another 3 to 5 years, or he goes somewhere for another 3 to 5 years, his next contract he's going to be in his 30s. It's going to be the twilight. So this is whatever he signs now. If he signs it for a good chunk of time, this is it. This is peak Joe Linton in terms of speed, power, prowess, all of it. He's an absolute monster when he's fit. It's a real tricky one. So does he deserve to be sort of match Matt Targett wages? Absolutely. Are we going to put him up to what Bruno's on or beyond? Maybe the club don't feel like he deserves that, or not deserves, maybe the wrong word, but maybe it's just about you've got a wage structure and players of a certain ability get a certain wage. We don't know how the internal structure is with in terms of wages. We just don't know. It could be I don't know. Is it based on talent? Is it based on technical ability? Is it based on potential? How long you've been with the club? Sell on value? Your character? I don't know. Like, are you a captain? We don't know what goes on behind closed doors in terms of the salaries. You know, you've got some players that are on 45 and you've got Matt Targets on 100.
Do you know what's worrying me about the whole thing? Because if we were to sell Joe Linton, we'd expect a hefty chunk of change for him. To replace him, you'd have to spend a hefty chunk of change for him. Now, players that go for a hefty chunk of change usually have a hefty wage packet to go with it. So if we were to sell Joe Linton for, let's say, 60, 70 million pounds and spent 70 million pounds on a replacement, would he be as good? I mean, is there anyone like Joe Linton? No.
I mean,
but how much money would a 70 million pound signing want? That's my thing about it.
I don't think it'd be that much, but well, I mean, it depends who we choose. Obviously, the main two names that are floating around at the moment are Onana from Everton and Philip Billing from Bournemouth. And so there's been a lot about Billing today, obviously being 6'4", Premier League experience, signed by Howe previously. Bit of a unit. If you actually look at, I was researching more today on Billing because obviously we'll probably cover him on a transfer show, depending on what happens. And he actually profiles very similar to Joe Linton on FBref as well. So it makes sense. It's funny that these sort of physical midfield replacements are cropping up as this is going on. Is it forced by the media, or is it real? Don't know. But
I like Billing. I like Philip Billing. I think he's a great player, but he's not Joe Linton.
I don't think he's better than Joe Linton. I really like Philip Billing. I think he's a great profile of player. I think he's really good for a strong Premier League side. Maybe not necessarily Champions League chasing. He's a great profile of player. Very, 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 very good for a balance of a side. But is he better than Joe Linton? No, I don't think he is. And I think he's the same age as well. Like if he was 5 years younger with potential to grow, then this might make a bit more sense. But I'm pretty sure Philip Billing is the same age as Joe Linton. Therefore, for me, it's an absolute, surely you wouldn't, like if we had Philip Billing and Joe Linton, hell yeah, that means we've got a similar profile. We can rotate in the 11. Yeah. Brilliant. But I don't want to trade him. Like that's an absolute loss. Yeah, he's 27 and a half, Philip Billing, similar age to Joe Linton. I wouldn't want one. I wouldn't want Joe out and him in. I'd want both.
I mean, I remember the game at St James Park last season, the league game, the Carabao Cup game, where Philip Billing actually marked Joe Linton out of the game and then kind of pushed forward as well. And, he negated Joe Linton to a certain extent. So he is a good player. There's no doubt about it, but he's not Joe Linton.
There's 100 days difference in their age.
Paul says, so far we seem to have signed players no one expected. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again next week. You're possibly right. Right.
The only difference, by the way, is Billing is left-footed. Joe Linton's right-footed. That's the main difference.
John Rollins says Tosin was class at City. Yeah, he started there, didn't he? Of course he did. They mentioned at least Trippier, J7, Miggy and Lascelles as Ian. Lee thinks 3-0 tomorrow. Got any what's the word for it?
Graphics?
Graphics, that's the word.
I will do. I just need to let the dog out, guys, so I will be 1 second.
Okay,
if you want to read a couple of comments, Billy.
Yeah, I'll do some comments. Paul says, Milan was our biggest game of the season that went, so Fulham is massive. Eddie cannot afford to lose, surely, without bags of pressure. I agree. If we were to lose tomorrow, and if we were to lose in a bad manner, let's say, I think questions would be asked by the owners. I think they're already asking them, to be perfectly honest, but we shall see. Dean says simply and Simon Jordan, not simply Jordan, but that's good enough. It works. Reckons that we have around 60 million to spend this window. Do you think that our recruitment team is playing the game for bargains? Potentially, but I'm not sure how Simon Jordan knows what our financial states are like. He seems to think he knows a lot about lots of things and doesn't. So, yeah, take of that what you will. PLV says Eddie must use his bench whatever goes on. Well, if his bench has got players on that he trusts, he will do, I guess. Noel says if we're going to play high pressure, you really need 3 players of same quality to come in the 60th minute. We all agree with that, Noel, but he hasn't, has he? Which kind of begs the question, why is he playing that system? Not changed it. But there you go. Paul says, I can see it finishing as a draw as our away form is just awful. Cup games are different. We've played 2 cup games away from home this season in domestic football. One at Old Trafford, which we won convincingly. One at the Stadium of Sight, which won convincingly. So with the pressure of the league off, cup games away from home, we've actually been very good this season. Paul says if we sit back, we're done. I don't want to see us sitting back. No, me neither. For front three says Niall. Barry says I'd be going all out for the FA Cup, try and win the thing, or at least go deep in the tournament. We can beat anyone on our day, so why not try and go all the way? I'm sure that's what the aim is. And Baz says my eyes will be on our fullbacks. And Jazz says no trying to defend a 1-goal lead that can't stand it when we do that. Yeah, I agree with that too. But I think against Fulham, I don't think we'll do that. And the answer is, to be fair, we could play a blinder for the rest of the season and still make the top 5. Yes, I agree with that too. Well said, Jan. Yeah, Jackie thinks 2-0 to the Toon. Barry thinks 1-0 to the Toon. Peter's going. He says, going to the game, I think we'll lose. We'll miss Chase Evans' physicality. Well, we'll have to get used to it because he's not going to be available for the rest of the season. So, if Fulham are pretty physical in the middle of the park, aren't they? Stato Polini's pretty physical. Pereira's quite physical, quite ratty, isn't he? They've got House and Reed on the bench who can come and do the same kind of thing. So they are pretty physical in the middle of the park.
They are indeed, yeah. I will just share my screen in a sec.
Ant says, I'm along for the ride as usual, but for the life of me, can't predict a score, but I can predict a win for the Toon. Away the lads. Right, so what we got here. This is obviously looks like Fulham's, the game since the international break, the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg. Let's have a look at what they can come up with.
I mean, it's the last thing we can really look at in terms of how they've lined up recently. This may change, of course. So this is what I mentioned at the start of the show. 29.9 years average age for this starting 11. It very much is a now or never kind of starting 11 for Fulham. Most of those players, they are going to need to rotate or bring in some more youth into this side because I don't think Iwobi's particularly young either. So, it'd be interesting to see where Fulham go in the next 3 years because they can't retain this. Like, they've been really, really competent because everyone's kind of playing at the peak of their powers-ish to a point, with a couple slightly over the hill with such as Willian, but they will need to kind of address this soon. If you compare that to Liverpool,
Tom Kearney was captain of them when we were relegated the first game back into the Championship with Rafa, so he can't be young either, can he?
Well, I mean, conversely, Liverpool's average age was 24.5, so that's a massive. In football, that's an enormous difference for your average age lineup. So I would fully expect them to line up something similar. They're at home. They're a good side. I would expect them to be fairly confident, potentially defending numbers in terms of when it's something like Anthony Gordon. I would expect these three to just swamp him enormously. I'm not sure how the wide cover is going to operate, if Reed's going to track back lots or if it's going to be left to Polini to do wide cover. I've not watched Fulham enough to know how they're going to deal with that. Again, if potentially should have watched them against somebody with a strong left winger, we might have been able to identify it, but I haven't. So we'll have to wait and see if it's going to be Paulinho who wide covers or Reed's going to help out. I can't imagine Willian's going to have the legs to do much tracking. So, I mean, as you said at the start of the show, maybe you were right all along. If Miggy has a good game, it could be the key. Because I think Gordon's going to have a tough time. I mean, he might excel. He's a great player, but it's hard to break this down. There might be more luck for Miggy potentially on the other side if he has a decent game. If he switched on, if we can drag, obviously, Trippier doing lots of overlaps. If Willian's a bit switched off, Kearney gets dragged out to wide cover. There could be opportunities. We just need to make sure we're really, really decent at whenever we put it into the box, because we're just so bad at it this year, is the cutback or straight across the 6-yard line or corridor of uncertainty. Wherever we put it, we just always put it in the wrong place where somebody isn't standing. We just need to be on the same page. It's really important. We need to be on the same page as each other.
I do wonder if Calvin Bassey may well come in for them because he's feast or famine. He looks fantastic for most of the time. Is he injured? I don't know, but
so squad. Feast or famine. Yeah, I mean, at the moment they had injured. So for tomorrow they've got these two out injured with Traore. Funny that, always injured. And we officially have got Pope, Target, Willock, Joe Linton, Murphy, Barnes, Elliot Anderson, Callum Wilson. Of course, for some reason, Nick Pope
on the Fulham side. Can't see.
I'm not saying that. You can say that.
I don't know what it is.
I'm not falling for that. Stephen,
no, I can't see it. I've never heard of him. Okay, I didn't see that. Okay,
I thought you were trying to trick me.
No, I weren't. I couldn't see that. I thought it was Toasting. I don't know what it was. But there you go.
I don't know why they've not included Tonali on this list as suspended. So I thought you were doing a funny, and you genuinely weren't. So if we have a look, we can see Fulham's squad somewhere. So in terms of who they've actually got available, so offensive threats, obviously Tim Ream we know may come in. So Iwobi is someone who may come in for this kind of game. Sasha Lukic is a good player. I'm pretty sure we reviewed him on a transfer show before he went to Fulham. This was a little while ago now.
How's that?
So Wilson, I guess, unless we see one of these other players come in, Vinicius, Rodrigo Muniz, potentially Traore, if he shakes off whatever's wrong with him. I don't particularly know what's wrong with him at the moment. I'd be surprised if it's not these three. The top, Willian, Reed, Jimenez, unless Wilson comes in for a start, which is very possible. They might bring Wilson in. He's not a bad player. So I think that's probably where they're going to go to. I mean, in terms of us, I don't know if you want to have a little play with our tactics board. I've not got an absolute Scooby-Doo what we're going to do in midfield. I think the back four kind of picks itself. It is going to be our tried and trusted with Dubravka, of course. Unless he wants to bring Livramento in because it's a cup game. Who knows? Unless he wants to throw caution to the wind and put Hall in. I wouldn't mind him doing that, to be completely honest. But I think it's probably going to be this back five.
Yeah.
And then the query is...
You need to get Bruno back in.
Yeah, I'm just going to change that now. So we're probably... are we thinking it's going to be some variation of this?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe he's going to put Longstaff as he did before because he's a bit more experienced. Obviously, neither Miley or Longstaff are particularly strong on the left-sided 8. However, Miley really struggled when he was over there. So you'd imagine he'd give it to Longstaff because he's a bit more experienced. Bruno's going to sit where he normally does. And then I don't think the front three is really going to change. I don't think there's much we can really do. Livramento may come in, he may start as a shock, or he may come in as a sub and try and do something. I mean, what else have we got? Maybe Jacob coming back, Mr. Murphy. Have I even got him at the moment? Probably not, because he was out. I've not even got Jacob maybe. Murphy. Yeah, let's change Alex Murphy into Jacob Murphy, shall we? Let's swap him for a.
Why not?
Let's just put Murphy. There you go. So Murphy may come on. I know he's not the number 4. So Murphy, Hall, Livramento, Joe White will probably end up on the bench, obviously returning from loan from Crew Alexandra. Matt Ritchie as well. So options from the bench. I haven't even got one for Ritchie. I mean, yeah, Dummett will probably be on the bench as well with Ritchie. So that's probably the cluster that's going to be on the... Oh, sorry, the comments are in the way. Let me move these guys up a little bit so we can see them. So you would imagine our bench is going to consist of this lot plus Ritchie and some keepers. Kraft probably. Kraft and a Carrius. Our bench is probably going to look a bit like that, unless we throw a couple of the White's cup tied. Oh, fair shout. Yeah, of course he is. We actually reviewed that last week. I can't believe I forgot that. Okay, I mean that makes it even more tricky in midfield because the options are just not there.
You're going to have to put Richie in there, don't you?
Yeah, Richie will have to go in. So we'll put, if I can spell his name right, Richie. Is that how we spell him, Richie? Yeah, that'll do. So plus a keeper. It will look something like that, won't it? Plus maybe someone from the academy. There's not a lot to chop and change there, really. I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts about what else we could do in terms of starting 11, bench. Anybody got any suggestions? Oh, Lascelles, obviously.
Lascelles, yes.
Definitely. Sorry, Lascelles. I do apologise. Mr. Jamal, let's whack you on. All right, there we go. So that's it. That's all the variation we've really got.
No, I think it's the most unpredictable lineup. The most predictable lineup that we're going to ever see. Jan's saying Alfie could come into the team faster than we know. Well, I don't think he's even registered yet. So
I wonder if he'll be on the bench.
Potentially, I guess. When Eddie came in around this time of the season, you looked doomed, but ended up in top 10. So top 5 is a possibility if you give results. Yes, I agree. I think that's the lineup. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion. If he throws a curveball, then I just don't see where one comes from. Livramento, like you say,
is probably the only one, right?
Or Hall, maybe, but that's about it. There's nothing else. I just don't see any changes at all, really. I think that's the lineup. I think that's as simple and straightforward as that. That's the lineup we're going to line up with.
Again, the issue arises is if we're not winning and we get to 65 minutes.
Well, this is it.
We don't have a plan B. The plan B is, I don't know.
The plan B is watch the rest of the cup from this comfort of your settee. Simple as that. That's it. That's the only lineup we can put out, except for Livramento and maybe Hall, potentially Lascelles.
I mean, this is crying out for an Anderson or a Willock. There's a few people saying that in the chat. I completely agree.
Of course it is. Yeah, of
course it is. With Anderson or Willock, they'd both be perfect for this kind of game. You know, attacking eights with attacking impetus who want to drive down the wing, drive centrally, run at players. They've got a reasonable pass on them. Willock's got a great pass. Yeah, it's a shame because Longstaff doesn't do that. I mean, Miley has a good profile, but he's not going to play. He's not going to do that. He does sometimes. He likes running into the right wing and kind of combining, but he doesn't do what Willock does. I mean, Willock's a completely different profile of player.
Yeah, Willock or Anderson would be fantastic because then you could switch to Longstaff back to the right and have the thrusting runs of Willock or the intelligence of Anderson in there. It makes it a completely different lineup, doesn't it? It really does.
I mean, a few people saying Murphy's the plan B. Yeah, but he's not fit, guys. He's not fit. You can't put all the pressure on him to come in and change the game. You just can't. That's not fair. If he comes on and doesn't score, you can't blame him for it. He's been out.
Give him probably get half an hour, minutes in legs, and maybe come into the game for Villa. But even that may come too soon. He might get half an hour or 20 minutes tomorrow, half an hour Tuesday.
I think we need to remember how good Murphy was playing before he got injured. He was brilliant. His energy was great. He was scoring. He was really, really competent. Very important. I think it's worth remembering that he's not a bad player. He was very important for us. Miggy was actually struggling to get as many minutes because Murphy was so good. But yeah, I wouldn't put pressure on him to have to drag us through this game. It's not fair if he comes on as a sub. Like, I'm sure he'll try his best.
Nick saying other teams find ways around all the rules, yet we can't believe it. Well, no one's getting around FFP rules, Mick. Everything's already been done for it. They're about to get done for it again. Forest are going to get done for it. Everything potentially because the COVID years are about to be kind of off the 3-year cycle. So they may fall into it again for the third time. So, you know, there's no rules.
Villa haven't had to navigate that yet because they got the massive sale of Grealish. So there's context there.
So that's both of our lineups. So I guess all that means now is, folks, get your score predictions in. We'll go through ours in a second or two. We'll probably do some comments. Planes, helicopters in the meeting at Newcastle. They haven't met up for Domino's Pizza. Steve, Toon, Gamer says Big Joe wants the same as Bruno. And Ken says Bruno would have told J7 how much he's on, and now J7 wants his slice of the pie. You can't blame him. He deserves a bloody big pay rise, Joe Linton, because he's improved 2 or 3-fold as a player. I mean, obviously we can't give him 2 or 3-fold wages, but I think he needs a wage rise that kind of respects the improvement he's made, 100%. Can't the fan advisory board shed any light on anything? I thought they'd liaise with the club. Well, I don't think they've even met yet. They may have met once, and we've not been privy to what they've been said. So there you go.
One
Fox
thing I wouldn't
Eddie
mind. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on. I'll come back to it.
Well, I was just going to mention, because there's been a lot of talk about the Sky News stuff in the last couple of days. And I kind of want to mention it slightly because obviously we've had Keith Downey on the show before, and we want to be respectful to the people that have been on the show and the journalists. And I have the utmost respect for Keith Downey, as I'm sure we all do. However, obviously those few clips with people getting a lot wrong is very difficult to stomach on Sky, considering, you know, me, Billy, and Paul, and a lot of other people on this platform. We're just fans and we try our best. And it's very irritating when people are so ill-researched and just putting out nonsense to fans. It hurts because we put in so much effort, and I know how much I put, how much work I put behind the scenes, as do all of us. So yeah, Alney Wick Castle and all of that, and obviously Matt Hall, who's not a real player, I've had a few messages about, I can't remember the gentleman's name, so I do apologise, but the guy is actually quite a competent journalist. Fine, he may be. People don't get this wrong about the sort of Manchester Uniteds and Liverpools, and it's not going to fly with us. I'm sorry, just because we haven't won a million European trophies, it's still not good enough. We're still in one of the best leagues in the world, and we're still one of the top 20 teams in the country. On paper, we're in the top 4. On paper, last year we were the 4th best team in the country, so we deserve a bit of respect. Learn the names of the players. Fabian Schär doesn't play right back. I know that they've got to remember a lot of teams. They're live on air. I get it's a pressured situation. I appreciate that. They're probably very knowledgeable people. However, it isn't good enough. And yeah, I just want to put that out there because I don't want to irritate sort of Keith and people that have been very good to us on this channel. But at the same time, as fans of the club, the representation needs to be correct in the media. It's not fair.
And on this point, I'm about to announce a statute for all Newcastle United fans, in honour of the Matt Hall mistake, actually. So from this moment forth, we shall refer to Manchester United's captain as Brian Fernandes. He's now Brian Fernandes. 1, getting the name wrong, and 2, there's only one Bruno. Do I have a deal?
That's absolutely fair. Brian Fernandes.
Brian Fernandes, folks. You heard it here first. Hashtag it, get it on Twitter. Brian Fernandes. There you go. Right, predictions. Let's come on and chat and get some predictions. Got a mod on the chat talk about Philip Billing. Okay. Indigo figures it's 3-1 to Toon. What else we got? 3-1 to Toon also says the Rufai Benition. Lots of confidence. It's confidence. Bart says 3-1 to Toon. So yeah, everyone's kind of confident.
Everybody thinks we're going to win 3-1 away.
The 3 I've seen so far.
Well, get your predictions in, guys, so we can have a look at them.
The scores. Let's have a look. Let's get. They might all be there, but I just can't see them. But I can't see many, to be fair. So yeah, get your predictions in. Bob Black says 2-1 to Toon. Mick J says 3-1 Fulham. JT Toon says 2-1. 2-2. They would take it back to St James to beat them. Going to be a tough game. Yeah, so that's all the predictions so far. Stato, where are you leaning?
Oh, I mean, the last time I felt like this, I thought we were going to bounce back and beat Bournemouth and beat Luton. No, post Bournemouth, and we were going to beat Luton. It never happened. So I'm a bit wary of saying the same things, but it does kind of feel like that. We've had a real tough time in the media in the transfer window so far. We've had an extra rest, which is really, really good for our style and the way we want to play. And I absolutely love everything that's come out of the club this week in other regards. I've loved all the Adidas adverts. They're brilliant. The return to that with Isak and Gordon and Joe Linton has been awesome. I just feel like there's still a fairly good feel around everything, despite some of the transfer links. And I think most of the lads on the pitch, maybe apart from Trippier, haven't been part of all that nonsense. Wilson's not going to play. Joe Linton's not going to play. So a lot of the fuss isn't going to affect the starting 11. I don't think personally. I think we'll be fitter, stronger. We want to try and put things right. We want to try and regain that winning mentality. I think Eddie Howe is going to emphasise that. It's about getting used to winning again, trying to grab that feeling. Anthony Gordon mentioned that in a recent interview as well. We want to get that feeling back of consistent winning and just being winners. I think we'll absolutely take it to them. And I think we've got a few goals in us. I'm going to go 3 as well. I think that's fair. I think we'll concede. I'm going to copy the first prediction. I'm going to go with 3-1 to us away. I think it's time we set the score straight and we stop being so bad away, and we need to really take it to them. So 3-1.
Scorers.
Isak with 2. I think he's going to switch it on. And tricky one. Tricky one. I'm going to go with Longstaff, I'm going to throw one out there because he always gets in those good positions and he always squanders it. One of them's got to go in. I think it'll be tomorrow. 3-1.
I know you hate this stat, but historically we do really well at Craven Cottage.
That's true. That is fair. I don't think historical fixtures have any bearing on
whatsoever.
Future
but
ones.
that's why I said I know you're going to hate it, but I don't see us losing this one. I think 2-0 Newcastle. I think the goals will come from Isak, and I think they may both come from Isak, actually. I don't think they'll have an answer to him. As good as Tosin is, I just don't think they're going to have an answer to him. He's got too much for most centre-halves these days, and I think a couple from him and a solid defensive performance will bring the ball of ours into the next round draw. And that's as simple as that. I think we'll win 2-0. Even to the Macum Cabby. Julie, I don't think Julie can watch because it's clashes with the Masked Singer. Well, that's a bastard, isn't it? Don't watch the Masked Singer.
Michael Owen was on it once. You can't watch that show anymore.
Was he?
He was. I'm pretty sure he was in the first season. Michael Owen was one of them.
No, pity he wasn't in the Masked Assassin's Victim. That'd have been a good show for him to be in. Derek says 1-0. So we've come to the end of the show, guys. Don't forget Brian Fernandez. Let's get rid of that. Brian Fernandez, get it on Twitter. Hashtag it. We want to make sure that people know that we're upset about this idiot calling Lewis Hall Matt Hall. And there's only one Bruno also, so there you go.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that he was probably thinking about Matt Ritchie and Lewis Hall at the same time. It was obviously a slip, which is fine, but it was the fact it was about 5 slips in the same segment has rubbed people up the wrong way. If it was one slip, fine, but it was about 5, and it just irritated everyone. And I agree with everyone. It's not good enough. You get paid a lot of money to do it right. Do it right.
No, it isn't good enough. If you do nothing now after this show, head yourself over to PD Pride Block channel for a fun packed 2 hours, which include the dreaded food picks on his football show on Friday night. But we'll join you again tomorrow for the watch along, now known as Matchday Live with Paul, myself, and Stato for the game. Half times analysis from Stato and full time too. And there will be a Patreon podcast after the game, which will start up again now the games are back on. So obviously, and more historical stuff coming too. So until tomorrow, I'm going to bid you a good night, and Stato's going to do my bit.
Away, the lads and lasses.
Let's get to the next round, folks.
Come back and check out some